What's up guys, how you doing? Welcome to another Forged Innovationz video where today we're going to be going through the installation for our innovative plate mount for the 2008 to 2010 Suzuki GSXR 600 and 750 motorbike. Keep tuned and get excited. When looking to install a Forged Innovationz plate mount, you need to look at what's needed in terms of your tooling. This will vary based off your manufacturer and the hardware being used in your vehicle. For this GSXR, we're needing a 4mm Allen key, 5mm Allen key, and either an 8mm socket or wrench alongside a 10mm socket or regular wrench. From here, we can get started. Prior to the installation process, the first step is removing the original manufacturer plate mount from your vehicle. This is regularly done by removing the hardware that holds the OEM plate mount on, and for this GSXR, you can see the 4 mounting positions underneath the tail end. Depending on your vehicle, you may need to access the rear cowl and inside the tail end of your bike. This will only be done if you notice the hardware is spinning, as it may be positively locked by having a nut and bolt combination rather than a regular threaded mount. For easier access, it's also recommended to put the license plate onto the plate mount prior to installation. Here you'll need to grab the hardware provided, being the 2 M6 bolts, the 4 M6 washers, in which you'll notice 2 are narrow and 2 are of a larger diameter, and the 2 M6 nuts. Here you want to ensure that the narrow washer is actively going on the bolt prior to going through your plate. It's then an easy process of grabbing your plate, grabbing the Forged Innovationz plate mount and aligning it, placing the 2 M6 bolts with the narrow washers through your plate and through the plate mount, and then going to the other side, in which case we'll be installing the large washer and the M6 nut. Here you want to flip your plate mount over and your thread will protrude through. This will vary slightly between the LED option and non-LED option, however the same process applies where you place the large washer through, followed by the M6 nut, simply leaving it loosely attached so you can easily slide and adjust your plate to ensure it's in the center of your plate mount. You would then want to repeat this process for the other side, ensure your plate is centered along the plate mount, and use the 5mm Allen key and 10mm socket or wrench to tighten your plate in position. Prior to the mounting process, you'll need to locate your electronic connection points within the rear cowl of the vehicle. This will easily be done when you're removing the OEM mount. Based off your vehicle, the number of connections may vary. For this GSXR 600, there's only one plug, which illuminates the plate. Additionally, if you've purchased a plate mount with indicators, there will also be 2 indicator connections. Finding these connection points can sometimes be difficult. Sometimes they'll be located within the rear fairing of the vehicle or towards the side of the vehicle. In this location, you can see the plug is actually coming from the left-hand fairing of the vehicle, and it was easily located when removing the OEM plate mount. Also a note to be careful when disconnecting these plugs, as they could be frail based off your bike's age and condition. The next step in the installation process is plugging in the electrical connections. Here, depending if you had the indicators included in the design or it's solely just the plate illumination light, you will need to feed this through to where the OEM plug is located. This will usually be located within the tail end of your bike, as you notice when removing the OEM mount. As you feed the connection through the tail end of your bike, you'll need to locate it within the rear cowl and pull it through. In this GSXR, for instance, it comes underneath a plastic slot and it's pulled through gently whilst also assisting it from the underside. Here it is also important to be gentle, as you don't want to break any of the wiring. At this point you want to connect the plate mount lighting into the existing wiring and connection points. Note that if you have indicators, you'll often need to switch between the 2 options to figure out which is the left indicator and which is the right indicator. To do this, simply power on your vehicle, select the left indicator and check that it illuminates your left indicator on the plate mount. If not, and it's instead doing the right, simply switch them over. Once you've checked your electrical components, the next step is to do a test fit of the plate mount. For this specific vehicle, you want to retain the bolts used for the OEM plate mount. This will be standard across most vehicle types, where the OEM hardware will be reutilised, unless otherwise provided. When doing your final fit, you'll want to make sure that the film from the adhesive double-sided tape is removed. We highly recommend doing a test fit with the adhesive film still on prior to doing your final fitment with the adhesive film removed. When doing your final fitment, you want to make sure that you're pulling your electronic components through the top rear cowl of your vehicle, whilst also ensuring that your plate mount is aligned correctly with the mounting positions. This is where your test fit will come into handy, as you'll know roughly where the alignment goes, such that when your adhesive tape bonds, it's not going to be in the incorrect position. Here you can utilise the bolts to help you align with your positioning. Utilising the hardware as an alignment tool can vary from vehicle to vehicle. In this instance, the plate mounts are threaded such that as you tighten your bolts, it will actively tighten and mount your plate mount. In other instances, you may need to access your rear cowl and positively lock as you're tightening your bolts. This is regularly done where there is a nut and a washer on the other side in which your bolt is threading and gripping onto. At this point, once your plate mount is aligned, you want to grab the tools required and tighten the plate mount into a firm and solid position. Now that your plate mount is installed, you will want to ensure that all electronic components are hidden away and tucked away to avoid any moving mechanics in your rear cowl, and at this point you can put your cowl back on. The last and most important step to this installation is setting the correct tension for your flip plate component. Here you will want to apply the correct tension to the rotational component such that the plate mount can either flip or not flip based off your personal preference. This process is typical across all our variations in plate mount designs. I've moved to the side view for a better understanding of what this means. In this installation you can clearly see that the plate is not fixed. All provided plate mounts will be provided at this tension such that if a firm grip is applied, you can flip your plate up. However, at the same time, it will be installed at a point that it will stay up whilst the vehicle is moving, and with a firm grip, you'll be able to pull this plate back to a visible position. When adjusting this tension, all you will need is your 4mm Allen key and either an 8mm wrench or socket. Here, you'll want to utilize these tools to adjust the tension of the main bolt protruding through one side to the other of your plate mount. Regardless of your preference of either a flippable or fixed component, you want to ensure that you're never over tightening this bolt, as this could cause material fracture and in turn break the component itself. As noted earlier, all designs will come pre-tensioned to allow a flippable component. However, should you require a fixed component and do not wish for this flippable one, all you'll need to do is tighten this bolt until a solid amount of pressure cannot flip this plate in an upward position. Alternatively, once fixed, should you wish to put it back to a flippable function, all you'll need to do is loosen off this bolt. However, you'll want to ensure that the tension still allows the plate to go up and is quite firm, such that when in use, it is not going to fall back down, or alternatively, flip back up without the applied pressure from your hand, as this will ensure that your plate stays in the correct position whilst in use. Here you'll have the correct tension when you are applying a heavy amount of force while still at the same time being able to move the plate in a non-fixed position. You're now ready to ride with your new Forged Innovationz plate mount.